Hey guys and gals, let's just not play any games with each other. I know why you're here. You want to hear some history stuff, and I want to give you some history stuff, so let's just cut the crap and get right to it. What do you say? Thank you guys. First and foremost, I got a donor this week too. An anonymous donor, but I do show the card to let you know that I did get it. And I got a nice little note inside too, along with the donation. It's always a pleasure to watch your YouTube. You make me laugh, and I love the towns. And thanks, Melody. So thank you so much, Anonymous, but you know who you are. And I want you to know too, I've been praying about your situation. I'm not going to get into detail here, but I hope everything's gone better there. I wish I had a better way of communicating, but just know that you are on my mind. Starting off with July 26th, a man by the name of Estes Kefauver was born in 1903 in Madisonville, Tennessee. He was a politician from Tennessee, served in the U.S. House of Representatives, and also was a senator from 1949 until his death in 1963. He was very prominent in the investigation of organized crime in the early 1950s. He also sought the Democratic nomination for presidency twice and came up a little bit short both times. He was chosen in 1956 to be the running mate for Adlai Stevenson in his ill-fated attempt to defeat Dwight Eisenhower and Richard Nixon for the presidency. So they came up a little bit short, and they lost to the I Like Ike campaign. But he was also most remembered, as I mentioned before, about he fought the organized crime bosses. He formed what was called the Kefauver Committee. He headed that up, and they tried to crack down on a bunch of high-profile mafia crime bosses, including Willie Moretti, Joe Adonis, and Frank Costello. Costello actually became a star because he refused to let him film his face while he was testifying, and he also famously got up and walked out of the hearing, and that made him a national figure because it's a pretty gutsy thing to do, and it was one of the very first things that was televised nationally, so that also made Kefauver a more prominent figure nationally, which probably prompted him to run for president. But again, as I said, he fell short in that attempt. The Kefauver Committee came up short as far as really getting anything accomplished, although it did introduce a lot of the country to the word mafia even. A lot of people didn't realize that organized crime was such a rampant thing. And this trial took place in Las Vegas, or not trial, but this committee. And it was kind of interesting. I went to the Mob Museum last year when I went to Las Vegas, which I highly recommend. It is absolutely fantastic place to visit. But I actually ended up, speaking of crime, they have these little bullet styluses that you use to poke screens, and I accidentally kept mine, so I stole something from a mob museums. Guess that makes me a criminal myself, I guess. But anyway, they had the courthouse, and it is there at the Mob Museum, and it is such a fantastic display, and it tells a lot about Estes Kefauver and how he was involved with the attempted outing of these crime bosses. It's very, I love organized crime stories anyway. It just fascinates me. And is there a better nickname than Murder Incorporated? It's the best thing ever, but I digress. I'll get off of that. Sadly, Mr. Kefauver died at a fairly young age, and he died in 1963 at the age of, I think he was 60, and he had a heart attack while he was on the floor of the Senate, and he passed away just a couple of days later. So I guess he was doing what he loved. Moving on to July 27th, Nia Franklin was born in Winston-Salem in 1993, and she was a beauty pageant contestant and was the winner of the crown of Miss New York, and she also went on to be crowned Miss America in 2019 in Atlantic City, New Jersey. So, very recent winner of Miss America for Nia Franklin. Sticking with July 27th, in 1812 in Huntsville, North Carolina, Thomas Clingman was born. He earned the nickname of Prince of Politicians, and he served as a U.S. Senator in North Carolina when the Civil War broke out. He didn't resign his seat, so he and 9 other senators were expelled from the Senate in absentia, and he decided to serve in the Confederate States Army, so he became a general and served throughout the war. After the war, he went around and he explored and measured a lot of mountains in western North Carolina and East Tennessee, and in fact, Tennessee's highest mountain is named Clingman's Dome in his honor. I did not know that till this very day. But I've been to Clingman's Dome, and it is quite the place to see. They got a really good little overlook up there, so I recommend you check it out if you get the chance. Okay, moving on to July 28th. 1915 in Davis, West Virginia, a man was born by the name of Frankie Yankovic, and he was an accordion player and a polka musician. And believe it or not, despite playing the exact same musical instrument, the accordion, he and Weird Al Yankovic have no relation at all, although they did perform together a few times. They were not actually blood related at all. But Frankie Yankovic was the son of a blacksmith and a cook, and his parents fled from the area of West Virginia once it was discovered his dad was involved in bootlegging. So he ended up moving away and going to Cleveland, where he learned a lot of his accordion skills. He won a Grammy in 1986 for his album 70 Years of Hits, and he ended up selling over 30 million records during his career, which is astounding. And he performed with Chet Atkins, and he also performed with Don Everly of the Everly Brothers. And he also had a song called Too Fat Polka with Drew Carey, the comedian of all people. But last but not least, and the whole reason I love his story, he's also the man who sang a version of, or performed a version of Pennsylvania Polka that is heard prominently in the movie Groundhog Day with Bill Murray. And if you don't know it, you're about to hear it. Strike up the music, the band has begun, the Pennsylvania Polka. Just love it. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I watched it just a couple months ago. Just love it. Can't get enough of it. I watch it probably 2-3 times a year. But I love Bill Murray. And Needle-Nosed Ned. Watch out for that first step. It's a doozy. Oh, I gotta move on. Moving to... Let's put a smile on my face that I can't even erase. Moving on to July 30th, Jesco White was born in 1956 in Bandytown, West Virginia, and he is a folk dancer and entertainer, most known for his, well, I wouldn't say most known, somewhat known for his combination of clogging, flat-footing type of style of dancing. He's really got some acclaim for that. His dad was famous for the same thing. His dad was named D. Ray White, and he ended up getting shot and killed. At the same, he actually got shot too. Jesco kind of a little bit of the blowback off of that too and got injured, but he lived and his father passed away. But Jesco White, I got a really complicated feelings toward him because a lot of people know him. He's battled drug addiction and alcoholism, and that's a common story. I think unfortunately a lot of people watch this guy and his family. There's the movie The Wild and Wonderful Whites of West Virginia, and it's very entertaining. It's funny, it's pretty real, and it's just, I hate that so many people see that kind of thing and think it's representative of Appalachia when it's not. But of course, I do know people like him. Matter of fact, I've been 10 different spots where Jesco just left or just came. I've never met him, but I've been in the same area several times. But I just don't know. Like I said, I think it's funny and it entertains me, but it also pains me to think that so many people, that is the only side of Appalachia that they see. So I'm not sure how to feel about it. He's a great dancer, though. I don't know. I'd love to hear from you guys. If you in the comments, if you know Jesco White, what are your thoughts about that whole Wild, Wonderful Whites of West Virginia? That whole thing is just, I can't explain it. Just, I don't know if it sits right with me or not. I don't know. I'm entertained. Definitely entertained, but I wouldn't say I'm proud of it. Moving on. July 31st in 1977 in Hyden, Kentucky, a man was born by the name of Tim Couch, and he was a quarterback in the NFL and for the University of Kentucky Wildcats. And he was actually the number 1 overall pick by the Cleveland Browns in the NFL, and he just had a phenomenal, ridiculously astounding career. I remember hearing about him when I was a kid. He was... Actually, I'm a little bit older than him, but I was still a kid in my own mind. But he set numerous national records in football back in his time at Leslie County High School. He had the record for TD passes, completions, yardage. ESPN at the time ranked him as the 6th best high school athlete of all time. So that tells you what kind of an athlete Tim Couch was. He ended up playing basketball also, and as a senior year, he averaged 36 points a game in high school basketball. So he was just a phenomenal athlete, and I've always appreciated that he stayed local when he played for the University of Kentucky, who was at the time not particularly well-known, prominent, well, they're not now either for that matter, but they're not particularly known for their football program. Of course, a strong basketball program, but not football so much. But he played 5 seasons in the NFL for the Browns. He got injured quite a bit, and really going to the Browns probably the worst thing that ever happened to him, because you get back there, you don't have an offensive line, get sacked, get happy feet, and all that stuff. So it really destroyed his confidence as much as leading to a bunch of injuries too. So really didn't do him any favors. He actually has a record, too. He's the only quarterback in the history of the NFL who has won 2 games at the very last on the very last play with Hail Marys. So he did that twice. And the first time was in giving the Cleveland Browns their very first win once they returned. They had a team, then they went away for a few years and came back, and as an expansion team, basically, and he led them to their first victory with an Hail Mary at the end of the game. And there's a street, or road, or whatever, in Hyden named after him. It's called Tim Couch Pass, I think is what it's called. And I was going to go there this weekend, and I kicked myself in the pants. If I'd have known it was his birthday coming up, I definitely would have. I was between Hyden and Sneedville, Tennessee, so I ended up going to Sneedville instead because it's like an hour less drive, and I got a little tired Saturday. But anyhow, I almost went to Hyden. Gosh, I wish I went. Last but not least, July 31st, 1932, a man was born by the name of Ted Cassidy. Even though he was born outside of the area, he was raised in Philippi, West Virginia, so he's very much claimed in that area. He's a 6'9" actor, most remembered for playing Lurch on The Addams Family, and isn't that famous for the phrase, "You rang." They're creepy and they're kooky, mysterious and spooky. They're all together ooky. The Addams Family. That's too much. I'm sorry. I can't quite go. Still hear that at a lot of ball games too. They'll play that. The organ players will play that. So he's left a lasting impression for sure. I think they're having a festival or something this year from Philippi too to celebrate his life and times. And sadly, he died in 1979 at the very young age of 46 years old. And that's a wrap on this week in Appalachian history. I'll see you guys next week, and till then, you rang. I love it. I don't sound like I gotta get a deeper voice. Go scratchy third. You rang. That's even worse. Forget it. Maybe I'll try again next week. See ya.